Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper, coming to you from Lubbock, Texas, site of BYU versus Texas Tech. It is a massive game in the Big 12. It is a huge game in the college football playoff race, and we're diving into it right now in our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Number 7 BYU versus number 8 Texas Tech. Kickoff is at 10 a.m. Mountain Time here on KSL News Radio, televised on ABC. Extended pregame begins at 7 a.m. right here on KSL. Myself and Kyle Ireland, we will have you covered for the Cougs and Red Raiders, and we've been here in West Texas throughout the day. And earlier today, we caught up with College Game Day analyst Reese Davis and Desmond Howard. Of course, Reese Davis is the host of the show, but they shared their thoughts on this matchup with the local media and us included as well. We got the chance to go in that media scrum and toss some questions their way, but they spoke to the energy, the excitement of this contest between BYU and Texas Tech, and you can feel that around town. It is a energized crowd that for Texas Tech, they feel like this is a moment to showcase that they have arrived as a national powerhouse. And for BYU, they're looking to prove that last year, which never got the full attention that they deserved at 11-2, and then this great start at 8-0 is not a fluke. It's not luck. It's not, close call. BYU always gets the bounces to go their way. They want to go in and make a statement here in Lubbock against one of the best teams in college football and show that they are one of the best teams as well in the sport. It's going to be a tough challenge, though, because Texas Tech, I believe, is the best team that BYU will face since they joined the Big 12 Conference 2 years ago. This is an outstanding Texas Tech team. When you look at their personnel defensively, with David Bailey, Lee Hunter in the interior, Jacob Rodriguez, the star linebacker, who was getting some questions tossed to the direction of Reese Davis and Desmond Howard. They were getting asked, should Rodriguez be a finalist at the Heisman Trophy ceremony? And those guys were like, I'd love to pander to the crowd, but it's probably not going to happen. But they've got a talented defense, and I'm really curious to see how BYU's offensive line handles the Texas Tech defensive front. BYU's offensive line with Andrew Gentry, Isaiah Jota, two guys on the tackles that Bear Bachmeier refers to as dogs. They have got to be excellent in this game. The entire BYU offensive line has to be on point. They've got to take care of the snaps with Bruce Mitchell, the interior with Waylon Lapuaho, Kyle Safarichok, Austin Leausa, Sonny Mocassini. They all have to play, I think, their best football of the season if they're going to come out of Lubbock with a win. And also keep in mind, too, Texas Tech has only given up more than 100 yards on the ground 3 times. The season high this year for Texas Tech allowed 126. That was last week against Kansas State. They don't give up much at all on the ground, and that's why they're the number 1 rushing defense in college football. They're only giving up 74.6 yards per game. And I point to the offensive line for BYU, and then, of course, the star running back in LJ Martin. What is he going to look like? He's going to play, and that's great. But will he be the full-strength LJ that we've grown accustomed to? It's nice that this isn't some ankle like he was dealing with last year or a knee injury or anything like that. It's an upper body deal. But will he play with the same violence, the same power that we've grown accustomed to this season? Because LJ Martin is the best running back in the Big 12 this year. There are great running backs in this league, and a pair of them are on the Texas Tech side as well with Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams. Dickey was at Raiderville last night here in Lubbock, and there were students, taped up to the Jones AT&T Stadium beams. Me and Kyle Ireland saw it. Cameron Dickey rolls over and takes a photo next to the guy, and it's classic Wreckham for the Texas Tech fans and players out here. It's been a scene here in Texas Tech, but guys like Dickey and Jacoby Williams will be guys that BYU's defense has to stop. But for BYU, they have got to be able to run the football. And Bear Bachmeier factors into that as well. And I'm curious to see if Bear can also have success running up the middle, up the heart of Texas Tech's rush defense with a guy like Lee Hunter there in the interior. It's going to be a tough test. But the BYU offensive line has to play their best football of the season to date this year. And you look at Texas Tech's defense as well. They're forcing 21 fumbles for their opponents. They've recovered 10. I mean, their ability to generate fumbles for their opponents, particularly with Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker, it's almost unreal. And you never see this level of ability to generate fumbles. So ball security will be a premium in this game. LJ Martin, Bear Bachmeier. I think Bear's done a nice job with taking care of the ball. You think back to the Arizona game where at the end of regulation, he put it on the turf, but Kyle Safarachuk recovered it. You can't have that. You have to take care of the football in this game more than ever before. And even Joey McGuire this week has pointed to turnover margin is going to be massive because both of these football teams, they generate takeaways. You know, you look at BYU, they've had 12 interceptions this year. We know BYU has a lot of confidence in picking off opponents. And Baron Morin's a guy that is good, the quarterback for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, but I still think there's a faction of people that wonder, well, how good really is Baron Morin? If he has a big game, you know, that could silence some of his critics. But you look at Texas Tech's passing numbers this season, they started strong. They had a week non-conference where they're going for 300 yards through the air consistently. But the last 4 games, they haven't reached that 300-yard mark. Last week, they went for 249 with Baron Morin. But a couple weeks back, without Baron Morin, it was 167 against ASU, 133 against Kansas, where he got banged up, and then 282 against Oklahoma State. They lost Will Hammond in that game. But I'm curious to see, you know, what BYU's secondary, how they perform in this contest as well. Texas Tech's wide receivers to keep an eye on, Caleb Douglas, Reginald Vigil, the 2 top targets in that K-State game. So that leaves Evan Johnson and Therian Alexander III for BYU to really level up and be able to shut those guys down. I think Texas Tech can beat you in a variety of ways, but I think if you can take away something, if you're BYU's defense, if you take away the run, you take away the passing attack, make them somewhat one-dimensional, that could be huge. But this is a very balanced team with a good offensive line, too, in Texas Tech. You look at some more of the numbers. Scoring offense for Texas Tech this year, 43.6 points per game. Scoring defense, they're only allowing 13.2. For BYU, 36.3 average, 17 allowed. These are 2 outstanding teams that they score a lot, but they don't give up much either to their opponents. I also what catches my attention, too, is BYU with the rushing offense, again, 216.6 yards per game on the ground for BYU. Texas Tech's not far off. They're the 3rd leading rushing attack in the Big 12 at 197.9. BYU is 1st in the Big 12 Conference this year. And I think a lot of questions, too, about this game for BYU centers around Bear Bachmeier. And I want to hit on that next coming up here on Cougar Tracks because Bear is going to be a critical piece for this game for the Cougars. Let's take a break. We'll get to more Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Mitch Harper with you. I teased it. Bear Bachmeier, quarterback for the Cougars. He has got to be exceptional in this game against Texas Tech. Kickoff at 10 a.m. on Saturday. When you look at Bear, this is going to be such an incredible opportunity for Bear Bachmeier. His stardom has taken off nationally since that Utah game. And earlier today, I asked Reese Davis if there was a player comp for Bear Bachmeier, and he said maybe a little bit of Tim Tebow in Bear Bachmeier. He pointed to that. But he also said that he does not like the number 47 at all for a quarterback, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I think the 47 is kind of worn on me. Everyone brings it up because it's so strange and so different. To me, it's kind of like, it just is what it is. It's kind of worn on me to where that's Bear Bachmeier. That's what he does. But I think that this is going to be a game where Bear has long stretches where he faces some real adversity. He faced it against Iowa State. This one could be more intense. And I think it's critical for BYU's offense to have a similar start to what they did against Iowa State, where they do score points. The BYU defense was letting down the Cougars against Iowa State, but BYU's offense was getting production. They have got to score early and often against Texas Tech. I think the first two drives, BYU needs to score. It is critical, and Bear Bachmeier has to put BYU in a position to get those points early in this game. I think starting strong will be of the utmost importance in this contest because Bear Bachmeier, this could be a game where it snowballs on you, and if you get down big, I don't think you're going to have a chance to come back. This has got to be a game where you've got a cushion, you've got a lead, or you're within striking distance throughout. If you face a 14-point hole, 21-point hole, I don't think you're coming back from this one. Not against Texas Tech. Other teams in the Big 12, you can make that happen. Not against this team and not against this crowd, which is so hyped up. Again, Raiderville was nuts last night. I was kind of like, this is overstimulating for my middle-aged dad mind. Like, I can't handle this. This is too much for me. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. College kids have a blast, but I'm like, I'm overstimulated. There's way too much going on here. This is not my vibe. This is not my scene. But for college students, what an electric atmosphere, and you could sense that. And really, Texas Tech is embracing that. But, you know, Texas Tech, I'm curious to see how they try to defend Bear Bachmeier and how many design runs does BYU give to Bear Bachmeier, knowing that LJ Martin is not at full strength, because establishing a capable rushing attack will be critical for BYU in this game, because Texas Tech has just shut down everyone's ground attack that they faced. I mean, really, there's been no one that has been a real threat against them. A lot of teams have been down big, and they've had to throw to the football a lot, so they haven't been able to turn to the ground at all in the second half in games. This one will be one where you've got to be able to run the ball, and I'm curious to see how many times Bear gets those design runs, and he's got to get the ball to his playmakers too. Chase Roberts, Parker Kingston, they've been really good. And even Desmond Howard pointed to JoJo Phillips, his return as an underrated aspect to this game that's not getting much of a spotlight. You know, JoJo Phillips, his return is critical. I think JoJo gives BYU another big-bodied target, maybe in red zone situations, his ability with the speed. JoJo is a versatile receiver, and you can go with some more looks where maybe you got 4, maybe 5 receivers on the field to combat what the Texas Tech is throwing at them. So JoJo's return is significant. They still got Cody Hagan as well. BYU feels pretty good about their receiver unit. You know, 2 weeks ago when BYU was leaving Ames, it felt like, man, everyone is so banged up. And look, everyone's still relatively banged up, but coming out of the bye week, they feel pretty healthy, all things considered. And to have these key cogs returning for this big game, it's quite the sight to see, and I'm really curious how this game plays out. And right now, it's time to give you my score prediction for BYU and Texas Tech.
Score prediction. Will BYU come out on top? It's time for Mitch's score prediction for the next game.
It's the question that everyone's asking. Will they come out on top? BYU and Texas Tech. I've been torn on this one, folks. I'm not going to lie. This is one, if you listen to the show often, you know my score predictions I take pretty seriously, and more times than not, I'm kind of calling the game. Like I'm pretty good at a feel of this game. You dive into some numbers, run some models. Like I get a pretty good sense of where these games go, and go back and look at these games. Maybe the final score isn't exact, but I've been pretty spot on in every game picking BYU this season, and the Cougars are 8-0, and I've really had no doubts on these games. This one, it's hard to predict, and early in the week, I would have said, I'm going Texas Tech. It's going to be maybe a 14-point win for the Red Raiders. BYU, with their personnel returning, it's huge with LJ Martin, with Jack Kelly, with Isaiah Glasker feeling healthy. Jay Hill saying his linebackers are probably healthier than they've been in the last 4 weeks. That's significant for BYU. Not game one healthy, but healthy considering what they've been the past month. If you were there in Ames or watched that game closely, you know that Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker were nowhere near to 100%. And they are two superstar linebackers that no one's talking about in this game because of the star power of edge rushers like David Bailey, Romello Heights, and Jacob Rodriguez. I like where BYU's personnel is at in this game. And when you watch that Texas Tech-Kansas State game last week, there are opportunities for BYU to attack Texas Tech. They are not this immovable object. They are really good, and they are super talented, and I've been hyping them up for a while. I am bullish on this Texas Tech team, but I think BYU is going to put up some points. And I think the BYU offense is going to find a way to get some numbers, and I think a big thing here, too, is field position. BYU's special teams have been really good this year, the last 2 years. And special team return yardage is going to be huge, too. Can Parker Kingston, maybe a Cody Hagan on kick return, can they pop off a big one? You think about Texas Tech, their average starting field position this year, about their own 36. They have had excellent field position. BYU has to win the field position in this game, and I think they will. Sam Vanderhaar has been very good punting the football this season, and BYU on the flip side when it comes to return game, Parker Kingston is as good as it gets in college football in returning punts. I think BYU finds a way to generate some takeaways on Barron Morton, sets up some short fields for Bear Bachmeier and this BYU offense, and we know BYU, when it comes to generating those takeaways, they pounce, they capitalize on that momentum. I think this is a close game. I think BYU comes out with an upset. I think BYU gets it done. I'm very kind of hesitant, but I'll ride with the Cougars here. I will say BYU pulls it off 31-30. The Cougars get it done in Lubbock and pull off one of the big wins in program history. Now understand, BYU could absolutely lose this game, and maybe it's a little bit of feel-based, maybe it's a little bit of emotion-based here in this prediction, but there's something special brewing with BYU football this year, and they are not going to be fazed by the stage, by the moment. And the morning thing I don't feel is that much of a factor either. BYU played one of their best games this last season in a 10 a.m. spot at Baylor. BYU, I think, comes in, plays pretty loose. I think not the most perfect start, but I think it's manageable. You're not digging yourself a hole. And I think BYU's defense responds and looks a lot more fresh than what we've seen in recent weeks. And maybe they stop the run a little bit better than what they've been doing the past few weeks. It's going to take a lot, and it's going to be a huge effort for BYU to pull this win off, but I got the Cougs pulling the upset over the Red Raiders, 31-30. You can share your comments on the KSL Sports YouTube. Do you agree? Do you think that's a terrible prediction? Sound off, share your predictions in the comments, or you can text us 57500 here on KSL News Radio. But that's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a ton. And oh, by the way, on the Cougar Tracks feed, all the Desmond Howard, Reese Davis audio. You can listen to that and watch it on KSL Sports YouTube, 1. But 2, you can listen to the audio on the podcast feed as well. Appreciate all of you. We'll get ready for game day tomorrow, 7 a.m. here on KSL News Radio, and then enjoy the day with post-game reaction here on the Cougar Tracks podcast feed from Lubbock. It's going to be a fun day, everyone. Enjoy your weekend of BYU football right here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page.